Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
All right, welcome to another episode of Talking Grit. We're live here on YouTube. I am Jason Harwood. With me, as always, Jacob Litton. Jacob, it's been a little over a week. I'm still trying to recover from our extra long podcast that we had with Morgan and Miko last week. Plus, there was a big game on Sunday that we both watched. So I was wondering, have you recovered yet, or are you still flying high from that?
Kind of a big game. Was it? Could you say
Yeah.
it was the biggest? I don't know. You might even call it
Could
super.
It might be. Yeah.
Yeah, you stayed up way past your bedtime and now it's taking you a week to recover. Is that it?
Nope. Dude, you go to bed before me, and you know that.
I do.
And
I also wake up before you.
You do. You work out. You're the man. No doubt about that. No, it was fun. I had a good time. We could talk a little bit about the game. I guess we can get our impressions from it. First I got to know, were you at home or were you at a party, or what was your setup like?
Yeah, we were at home as we usually are. I know we've talked about this. Sometimes I do the Super Bowl party thing, but for the most part, I want to watch the game. And when we're at a party, there's too many people there that do not want to watch the game or don't care about the game as much. So yeah, I'm fully into it with the game. JJ and Milo also, made some fun snacks and different things like that at home. And I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have had it any other way.
Yeah.
Except for if the Lions were playing. Maybe that would be different.
Yeah, it would be. I'd be locked. If you want, I wouldn't have any. I just thought about that, dude. I don't know if I could have people over. Like,
right. Yeah.
I'd have to be with my boys, and Sarah. Sarah would have to be there. Like, honestly, there's only a few people that I would let into my inner circle, you being one of them. But I don't know if the room could put up with our nervous energy together.
Yeah.
Do you think that's possible?
Right.
Oh my God.
They would sense the tone. They'd have to leave, give us space.
I'd have to have some antacids for sure there. I don't know if I'd be able to eat. I don't think
that's what I was going to say
is
the snacks would be over. If the Lions are playing, I'm not eating. I don't usually eat, but I mean, the Super Bowl on the line like that, no, I can't eat.
Yeah. I don't know what I would. I don't know if I do Super Bowl squares. I don't know if I want anything to distract me from the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I was going to bet, I don't know. Do you do the blasphemous thing about bet against the Lions? So that, that I don't want to say if anything to look forward to, but you have some sort of thing you could look to that was a positive. I wouldn't bet on the Lions because, man, that'd be doubly crushing, them losing and then you losing money on top of that.
My superstitions. There's no chance. There's no chance. If I bet against them, I'd be like, it's my fault. Why'd I have to do it?
Yeah, I thought I knew your jinxing would get involved in that about, whether you'd be okay with that or not. If I did anything like that, bet against them, I would never tell you. At least not until after the Lions won the Super Bowl. Then I'd be like, hey, I know Lions won and you could be happy I lost $50 or whatever. I don't bet that much, but that's maybe for that.
Are you waiting till one of us is on our deathbed to tell me that you bet on the 49ers on the championship?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, you knew I got a new car right after that game, right? That's how I got it.
Please, if you do something like that, just take it to the grave.
Oh my God. Dude, I would never tell you that. There's I would feel so guilty if that were to happen. I could never do it.
Yeah.
So
there's just no.
I was at home like you. My boys are here. My boys brought a friend that likes football over. Sarah had some family over. I had some family over. We get together early, play some gambling games. We played some dice, a game called Left, Right, Center. It's a game that, everybody could play. It's not, we don't go too crazy with it, but we did teach Preston's friend how to gamble, which is fun. I'm teaching 14-year-olds how to gamble.
Good babysitting. Good.
Yeah, it was great. It was really fun. I felt bad until we got together, as a family, for Preston's band concert, and one of the dads in the group was teaching him how to swear in German. So I'm like, I'm teaching him how to gamble. You're teaching him how to swear. Who's teaching him how to drink? And then we're good, right? Then they're ready for college.
He's just set up for success.
Yes, he's good. Nothing's going to shock this kid, right? So we were at home, like I said, little more than we usually have. Sarah Sarah's uncle likes to talk. So luckily he was on the other side of the room. I really like Sarah's uncle, but like you, I want to watch the games. He was across the room and we have a pretty big room downstairs. You've been there. It was fine. Didn't really hear the commentators, but frankly, I don't really need to hear the commentators. The only time I want to hear the commentators is if they're like there's an injury or a weird call and I'm trying to get some clarification. But Twitter's always good for that too, so I can kind of keep track of it that way. We do Super Bowl squares at the house, so we are rooting, and then one of our coworkers, Dustin, does them, and so I have like 4 sheets in front of me, kind of, so, especially when the Lions are in there, I got, things to keep me interested to see who's going to score that. Preston was so close, yet the Patriots could just score because he was on one board where you got paid, like every score got paid out.
Mm.
And so he had 7-3. Great numbers, right? And
Wow.
he had Seattle 3. They kicked the field goal, and then Patriots had multiple times where they could have went down, but obviously, there was no touchdowns in the first 3 quarters of this game. So he didn't win it. We thought 7-3. This is gonna be great numbers, and we was lining up. It'd have been nice for him to win, but it didn't. None of us, I don't think any of us won anything on our squares. So that was kind of that was kind of that kind of sucks. So what was your snacks? What were your snacks of choice at your house?
We did like chicken, French fries. I make these. They call them gyozas, and it's like basically they're cheese sticks with wonton wrappers. It's almost like
Okay,
an egg roll wrapper. It's like a smaller thing with mozzarella cheese and garlic. Like it's really good. That's usually
nice,
my go-to for like if we go somewhere. Then I'll just if I'm not making cheesecake, I'll just make those gyozas, these little cheese sticks. They're addicting, and
nice.
you can eat like 50 of them. So
Yeah, that sounds good, dude. My mom always bring. I don't care where we're at, what we're doing. She always bring nachos cheese because she's not a cook. So she's like gets a big can of Gordon Food Service cheese, puts it in the crock pot, puts a thing of salsa next to it. You can make your own queso dip or whatever. So I know that that's good to go, and that's a nice thing because you could have that first, second, third, fourth. I mean, there's always time for nacho cheese, right? So
right,
I'm cool
right,
with that.
good
This
call.
year, Sarah did meatballs in the crock pot, which was pretty good. My grandma made 2 homemade pumpkin pies. That
Dang.
was friggin' awesome. And yeah, I'm kind of up and around. I don't like to eat really big meals or anything like that. Like during the game, I hate to get up at any point. It's hard in the Super Bowl because you want to watch the commercials too. So it's
Right,
like
right.
when do you get up? It's hard to pick. And depending on your thoughts on the game, I'm sure there's a lot of people that were bored during the game because of the no touchdowns. Spoiler alert, I actually kind of like defense. So like I was okay with how the game went. It wasn't you know obviously it wasn't crazy exciting, but at the same time, Seattle's defense was pretty amazing. So I did enjoy watching that. So all
Yeah, I
right,
think
man.
if you like football how we like football and you look at it how we do, I mean, it was good. I liked it too.
Yes.
It was,
Yep.
impressive to see what they were calling on defense, to see how they were playing things. It was awesome.
Like that they let them play. There was hardly any penalties, so it wasn't like, they were just calling everything. There really wasn't any. I don't remember any plays that were really controversial at all. I can't think of anything that,
I can't
you know,
really either.
I was screaming at the TV going how, they're going to ruin the biggest game of the year cuz the way the season went, I would not have been surprised if there was some stupid crap call
Right.
that swung it, but it really didn't. Drake May looked very much like a second year player for most of that game. And I have some thoughts on why that is. Sam Darnold didn't blow the game. I mean, that's the thing, right? He didn't blow the game. He got sacked a few times. Sometimes he'll fumble the ball or turn over the ball. He was careful with the ball. I think that Drake May was almost too careful with the football because you saw what happened in the fourth quarter when he started to let it loose a little bit because he was kind of forced to at that point. Yeah. So uh, I know we're on a text chain, and there was some of the, like Dustin, who I mentioned earlier before, he said he was basically falling asleep in the game, but I didn't feel that way at all. I'm okay. I would have rather them gone for it a little bit on fourth down than punting it so much, and we could talk about that a little bit later. But I, I, I thought the defense was great, and Seattle's defense all year it's been good, but man, it is so menacing up front. Really just controlled the game.
Yeah, the pressure they were getting on Drake May right away. And, they're sending pressure, they're sending corners, they're disguising different things. I mean, they're getting in there so fast that Drake May did not have time to settle down. And even when he's trying to scramble, he just can't get away. He just can't do it. I mean, it was almost a perfectly called game defensively. I just don't know. I mean, so Drake May, 60 yards entering the fourth quarter, and then he finishes with 295 yards, couple touchdowns, but then he has the 2 interceptions. Do you think it was just because, hey, we're going for broke here, like, we're just letting it sling, let it rip? Or do you think the Seahawks were like, okay, we're killing clock, we're lightening up a little bit, we're not sending as much pressure, we're not doing as exotic looks, let's just not give up a big play? Or do you think it was a combination of both? Because, I mean, something changed in that fourth quarter.
I think there's probably a little bit of both, but I think it's more like Drake May's like, screw it, we got to take, I got to fit it in this tight window. And he's actually been pretty good all season about fitting in tight windows. This happens in a lot of Super Bowls, especially at the beginning. No team wants to lose it early. No team wants to turn it over and just like put their team, behind the 8 ball very early on. And I really felt like Drake May, and this may be Vrabel may have, Vrabel may have been coached him up saying, this is, if it's not there, don't try to force it. But the problem is that they waited too long. But really, I mean, they were into the game even in the fourth quarter. There were 2 scores down. They had a shot. It's just I think they waited too long to really take their shot. And I don't know. I just feel like we're so used to Dan Campbell like aggressively going for it. You know, let's put the pressure on the other team. It really felt like for the first 2.5, maybe even full 3 quarters, that neither team wanted to make a mistake. And so they were just playing so conservative. The difference is that Seattle's defense was just stifling, or the Patriots would just make one drive error mistake and then they couldn't get it, either getting a sack, you know, simple penalty. They just couldn't overcome that type of error just because they were being so conservative.
Yeah, they also, they had Will Campbell. They had the other rookie starting on that side, and I think that was like a record for pressures in the Super Bowl. I don't know that for sure, but I know it was up there, which is unfortunate. But that's just one of those things when you're game planning. You're like, hey, we're going to test these rookies. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to come at them. And I mean, you're right. They just weren't moving the ball very well. They were being kind of conservative, but then even in the fourth quarter, so they finally start letting it rip. They score a touchdown. And then it's like, okay, this could be New England's comeback before, right? Like, and this is not, the game is not over. It's not out of the question. So they score on that one deep pass that he had to Mac Hollins. And then they get the ball back. And then it's like right away, just they're driving and he makes that terrible throw for an interception.
Yep.
And then you're like, okay, that's probably going to be it. And then they come back out again, pick 6. And that's when you're like, okay, they probably can start getting comfortable. And then, they did score another touchdown, but it was just, at that point, it's out of hand. But he was just letting it sling there in the fourth quarter. And that's something that you can't really do in quarter one.
I mean, the problem is they didn't want to lose it in quarter one by slinging it and throwing that interception. And I could get that. But at the same time, I want to lose on my terms rather than let someone else dictate that. So it's like, do I put the pressure on? The problem is that it felt like the Patriots are constantly behind the sticks. They couldn't run. Seattle's run defense was just stifling. It's exact what we want, what I want the Lions defense to look like. Just
right.
That outside of this year, the run defense is, it's looked a lot like what Seattle is. We haven't garnered the pressure that they have. I'm hoping that, that we could change that in the future, not work so much delayed. Drake May also wasn't as aggressive with his legs. He seemed like very hesitant about trying to run it. And during the year, he really could take over some games with his legs, not like a Lamar Jackson. But the fact is, just keep getting the first downs, putting the pressure on the defense. And then when you do that, then you force the defense to like, okay, we got to play in our lanes. You can't to get to the quarterback fast enough. And then we could start going over the top and hitting some of these bigger shots. But they just never could get to that point.
Right. I mean, the sacks were coming at like the worst times for them. It's never a good time to take a sack, but I mean, like they're driving and then it just felt like the sack was just stalling it. Went from like 2nd and 2 to, 3rd and 14 or something like that. Just like, which Seattle bringing the pressure at the right time, the right way, and they were just getting home.
Yep. And then they're so good in the back end too that like even if they're going to blitz, they're pretty good at tackling. So they're going to get the guy down. They're not going to have so much space that, you could run these screen passes and get a ton of yards, or the first guy's not going to miss. Like if they're going to hit the hot read, say it's 3rd and 14, they didn't have to worry about the dump down pass, throwing a 5-yard play and turning it into 14 yards. The Seattle's back end is pretty good at pretty sound tackling, and I think that makes a huge difference.
I also don't think there's anybody on New England that they were worried about doing that to them. I don't think any of their receivers, they had like, there's nobody that they zeroed in on. Like, we've got to make sure we know where he's at all times. Even Diggs.
Well,
he's just not that guy.
No. Well, they didn't have they have guys that could beat you deep, but they don't have necessarily yak guys, at least not that I could think of. I mean, they're running backs, maybe, if they get them out on the flat, but they didn't really, either Seattle was really onto that, or there was none of those plays that they could really get them going. And obviously, like I said, they couldn't run either. What do you think about Seattle's offense and the Patriots defense?
I mean, the Patriots have a pretty good defense too, and they did force, 3 and out early on. They were holding them to field goals. I mean, they were doing, I think, the best job that they can. But like you already said, Darnold did a good job of just no turnovers, right? Take care of the ball, move down the field. Kenneth Walker obviously had a huge part in this game. They gave him 27 rushing attempts, 135 yards, MVP. Yeah, I don't think there was anything that blew me away, right? It wasn't like, oh man, if their defense didn't have a great day, then that wouldn't have been a good enough offense to score, to win a shootout. That's also, I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba was hurt the whole time, right? They had to rely on Cooper Kupp, a lot more. It wasn't a great performance, but they did enough to win. They did enough to put points on the board. And that's one of those things where, they were taking the field goals. Had they decided, 4th and 4, let's go for it here or there, New England's got a little bit shorter of a field, and then you don't have as many points on there. And as it is, like, it was like 6-0 towards the end. They scored that last field goal with 11 seconds left, or 16 seconds left in the first half to make it 9-0. That was the first time it was ever away from the one possession game. Yep. So you don't take those points. It only takes one of those tries for you not to get it. A short field, they score, and then, it's 6-7. Then you need the field goal. So, I mean, it was conservative, but they did enough to win.
I know. You wonder, like, so much, we look at the analytics where, like, says you should go for it here. Seattle all year they don't, like, the games I've watched, they've been very conservative as far as, like, going for it on 4th down.
The fewest in the league.
When to punt.
I'm pretty sure the fewest in the league, they go for it on 4th down.
Yeah. Vrabel actually when I saw, other than this game, Vrabel, I actually was surprisingly more aggressive than I expected him to be. And I think that really hurt him in this game. There was one instance where it was 4th and 1. Like this is like late in the 3rd quarter. They're at their own 42, 4th and 1, and they were down 12-0. They punted. They absolutely should have went for that. You're down by 2 scores at that. If you're down by 1 score, then I could totally see punting the ball in that situation, letting the defense get the stop, and hopefully you can get them on the next time. But you're already at midfield. You get that first down, you got to get a score there. You can go to 4th quarter down by 1 score, then that's a whole new ball game.
Yeah, that one did not make sense, especially because the defense had just got off the field, right? Like, it was like decently, like maybe a 5-minute drive or whatever that the Seahawks had. So then the Patriots get the ball, and then, right, just what are we doing here?
I know. Something about getting in rhythm. I just think that it might have also been the risk taking shot in the arm that you need to do. Like, that might have gave Drake May the confidence to try one downfield, to fit one in a tight window, and just get that score, get a score on the board, get off the schneid. You're in the 3rd quarter and you haven't scored. You feel there's already pressure going into the Super Bowl, and now the fact is you haven't scored. Do I want to be the first team ever shut out in the Super Bowl? No, I don't want that. And then all those thoughts are going through your mind. I don't know. It's easy for me to say, like, oh, just let it rip or whatever. We know hindsight's 2020. We know that they ended up losing, but I just feel like they played too conservative too long. And that call, on 4th and 1. I know Dan Campbell would have went for it. Now, I also think Dan Campbell would have probably went for it very early on when Seattle kicked the field goals.
Right.
And I
I mean,
actually
the first one, like 4th and 7, we might have went for it just because they were so deep in territory.
Yep. And then you look back after the game, and be like, we should have, went for the field goal. We should have just take the points. And who knows? I mean, it's how you got there. The Seattle didn't get there that way. Seattle got there by taking the points and leaning on their defense. I don't know if I feel comfortable, especially this year's Lions defense. I wouldn't have felt comfortable sitting on the defense. I would have said we need to outscore the other team as opposed to what Seattle did. So, that's where the analytics, I think, sometimes just get muffled too, is like, your team, right? And you have to play to the situation and to your team. Those overall analytics don't look at like Seattle's defense in this situation versus New England's offense and what they're doing that day, who's hurt and who's not. They just look at overall statistics on, does this increase your chance of winning the game? And that's just an average over the whole, the history of the NFL, is how that stuff is aggregated. It doesn't mean like this exact situation calls for that. I know. Kudos to Seattle for just taking the points, having the patience to do that, lean on their defense. It won them the game. I mean, it kept them, in a 2-score game in the fourth quarter. And yeah, they wouldn't have got it. You're right. Patriots could have had a short field, and all it take is one deep shot, and then the game's totally flipped.
Right. I mean, they did what they had to do to win. It's the last game of the season. You're not worried about stat lines or anything like that anyway. You're just worried about having more points than them at the end of the game. And that's what they did. That's how they played. And, they had the defense to rely on for that. Like you said, the Lions, not so much typically. We know that we have to outscore people. So, what did you think about Kenneth Walker for MVP? Did you know that? I mean, did he have your vote, or where were you at there?
Man, that's a good question. Usually like in a game like this where it's not like crazy obvious, it just goes to the quarterback. But I was like, they can't give it to Sam Darnold with 200 yards and one touchdown. I cannot see a kicker ever getting the MVP, even though he set a record. But I was like, unless like he had that game and he kicked the game-winning field goal and it was like a long kick, then I see a situation where they're going to give it to the kicker. I'm glad Kenneth Walker got it. He really did like have a very good game, and he kept moving the sticks, kept running the clock. I think that he deserved it. If he'd had that touchdown they called back, then it would have been easy choice.
Right. No, he did feel like the most impactful person on the field. He came up with big play after big play. That is interesting though, for Jason Myers to have broken the field goal record, and then he's the one that put the most points on the board. So it's like, are we going to have to give it to the kicker? What, if there was ever a time a kicker was going to get it, I mean, this would have been it, right?
100%. I think if he'd hit the game winner, he would have had it. Like it would have happened. Or if like say, he hit those field goals and they were all 50 plus, that might have swung him too.
Like a Brandon Aubrey, Cowboys keeping the Cowboys alive with all those deep.
Exactly. Like you're in field goal position right after the kickoff, essentially.
Yeah.
The MVP is so weird because honestly, the true MVP is Seattle's defense. Like that deserved the MVP. Like if you could just give it, but you can't give it to a side of the ball. And there wasn't really, I don't know even who returned I think if like that would have been provided the winning score, the guy that got the interception returned for a touchdown probably would have got it. But the game
Nwosu.
Yeah, it was almost, I won't say it was over at that point, but it was, it was out.
It felt like
fairly out of
nail
reach.
in the coffin. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. And it wasn't like they were like, if Seattle was down and they did that and then that put them ahead, or if it's tied at that point, then I would think that he probably would have got it. Much like when Desmond Howard got the MVP in like Packers.
Never. Yeah.
I think Seattle's defense was the true MVP of that game, and maybe even the coach, like for being stubborn and just kicking the field goals and just, leaning on his defense and making the right choices. Michigan man, right? So we're going to be happy about that.
Team win. Michigan man, but the running back is a Sparty, That's okay, though. I'm happy for him. Real quick, so he is the 4th Super Bowl MVP that did not score a touchdown in the game. Offensive.
Okay.
Offensive. Quite a few defensive MVPs also scored a touchdown.
Do you have the list there?
I do, and that's why I was going to see if you could guess any of the people that are on this list.
So you're going to have to help me out. Like, when is
the most
recent one?
Most recent one was in 2019. And in 2019, I can just tell you, it was a 13-3 win for the Patriots over the Rams.
Jeez. That was the last Super Bowl that didn't have a touchdown forever in the game.
Yeah.
I don't remember who got it for that game.
So the MVP of that game was Julian Edelman. He had 10 catches for 141 yards. He had that one that was like that fingertip grab that was like crucial.
Yeah, the
late.
one that he like dropped and then he like clutched it
Great
at the last
catch.
second. Yeah.
And that, a 13-3 win. There's not a whole lot of scoring going on there. So,
it's our boy Goff.
Before that, I don't have the year on these other two. But the one before that was a 24-21 win for the Patriots versus the Eagles. And this was the year the Eagles had Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens. See if you remember this guy's name.
Was it a running back? I don't even know.
No, it's a receiver. Patriots receiver.
Deion Branch? I don't know who was the receiver that year, was it? Okay.
Deion Branch, 11 catches, 133 yards.
I think that did he go to Seattle after that game? Like
I think so.
He got traded or something like after that. Like that was like Brady's only receiver until he got Randy Moss. Like Deion Branch was the only guy. Like he's that he had, and then obviously he made Edelman, and who's the other guy that they had? Wes Welker. That he kind of just threw those guys
the
open.
Smaller
and those
slot
guys were great.
Right.
Yeah, those are yak guys that just
I don't have the year on there, but I'm thinking that had to be like 2004 ish, right? 2004, 2005, somewhere along there.
Yeah, I would say somewhere in that region.
Because T.O. was on the Eagles, was on the cover of ESPN NFL 2K5. So that would have been around that time. All right. And then before that, you have to go all the way back to Super Bowl III. 16-7 win. 16-7 win for the Jets over the Colts.
Jets over the Colts. I mean, is it Joe Namath? Did he like throw a touchdown in that?
No, Joe Namath, 206 yards, no touchdowns, but no interceptions. And he was the MVP.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he guaranteed it before that game. So
that felt like probably one where they were just like, whoever the quarterback is, the winning team, we're going to give it to you there.
Yeah. Well, also like he had called, like no one thought the Jets were going to win that game. He says that, we're going to go and win it. And you know what? People want a good story. So they're going to give it to Joe.
Yeah. Tell us more about Super Bowl III, Grandpa. What was it like?
I did not see Super Bowl III, but I do watch NFL films, so I keep track of
I
that
also
stuff.
knew that story, so.
Yeah, good. All right, cool. I'm glad we're on the same page there. All right, there was something else that happened halftime. Not going to get into the undertones of what people thought about that. I'm just curious about, for entertainment purposes only, did you like the Bad Bunny show? Did you not like it? What's your thoughts?
I thought it was just as entertaining as anybody else that I don't like. The only thing, it was high energy. I only recognized one song. I don't even know how many he did. Maybe like 6, 7, 8. Like, I recognized the one. It was just the instrumental. A lot of props. There was like a story behind what he was telling. I didn't get that. I don't understand the story. But, I mean, I know people have said like it was very symbolic and everything. He's the most streamed artist last year. So, I mean, clearly worldwide, a lot of people listen to his music. And I actually added a couple of his songs to the playlist after that, just, to try to listen to the English translation, what he's saying. And, some of them are catchy. So I thought it was okay. People love to hate halftime shows, though. Right?
Yes, they do.
And then it was funny that I was sitting there with JJ as we're watching. And, he's not speaking English. And I told him, I was like, now I know how Grammy must have felt when The Weeknd was doing the halftime show. Because my mom did not care for The Weeknd's halftime show. And she's like, I just can't understand anything this guy's saying. So what did you think, though?
I thought it was too long. I will tell you that. Like, it just in general. I thought it was entertaining. The visuals and stuff where they had on the field, I did like the setup of that. It wasn't like monotonous where a guy's just on the stage. Like, I thought Maroon 5 was boring when they were on because he just basically was on the stage. I liked Maroon 5's music better than I like Bad Bunny's. But as far as like keeping me engaged in the visuals, I thought he did a good job. I also think that, people, you talked about steep in symbolism. Last year, Kendrick Lamar was steeped in symbolism, and I would bet over half the people that watched it or more didn't understand I didn't understand all the symbolism in that until afterwards. I read what all this stuff meant. So like Bad Bunny's not the first to do it, and it's okay. As much as people want to say this is an American thing, it's a worldwide thing, and you can understand like the NFL is in this to make money. They're having these international games for a reason. They want international interest. Why not have one of the world's biggest artists do the halftime show? And that's what it all came down to me. I'm hoping
couldn't
that
get Taylor Swift, so they shifted to Bad Bunny.
my God, I was like, if Taylor Swift does it, then no one says anything. It's like the coolest thing ever, right? Like, I mean, there are Taylor Swift haters, but for the most part, they're not very loud, and it would be just like drowned out by the sea of fans that she has. And I think people would have just tolerated. Everyone's heard a Taylor Swift song, so they would have at least heard one song during halftime that she would have known, like either the early country stuff or the more poppy stuff that she does now. Halftime shows are halftime shows. I don't remember very many of them. Obviously the Eminem one, just because I'm a huge Eminem fan. I liked it. I didn't think it was crazy. I would have taken off some artists and put more Eminem in there during that show. Like if it was up to me, in the 90s, it had to be in the 90s, the Michael Jackson one, that was like the coolest. He was like the world's biggest artist doing the halftime show, and he put on an awesome show. That's like, I don't remember a ton of them, but man, people really like to have emotions for like that day, like that night, and then it's like forgot about after that.
I thought you saved the VHS tape of the Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson halftime show.
Dude, we were at I was living in an apartment at that time, and we did have people over. We had a lot of family over. I was in the kitchen. This is like before we had a DVR or anything, so I couldn't even go back and see it. Like the internet was like,
you can't be like, rewind it.
I think we had like dial-up internet at the time or something like that, so it wasn't even like something I could just like go like watch it. And we also had a CRT TV, like I would say a 27-inch CRT TV. Like you know what a CRT TV is, like not like a flat screen, like one of those big old the box,
okay,
with a picture tube. And so like it wasn't HD or anything like that. So even if I was watching, I wouldn't have saw it because it wasn't even HD, and it was so fast. I was upset that I missed it though.
Nice.
I forgot about that whole incident. Do you think that was on purpose?
Yes, it was on purpose.
Yeah, okay. All right. It was so quick, but yeah, I'm sure it was.
It was like the perfect part of the song and everything. I don't know what was supposed to happen. Like,
yeah,
felt like it was on purpose. I mean, I was like 12 or 13 years old or something like that. So,
talk about the VHS copy. You hid it under your pillow, didn't you?
Yeah.
No, Mom, I'm not doing anything. Mom, get out of here.
So that was back when I had to watch the Super Bowl in the toy room. Like we had a toy room with like a TV, an older TV in there, and I was watching. It was the same thing, like a box TV. That's where I was watching Super Bowl by myself.
Yeah, because your dad was probably watching movies that you weren't allowed to.
Right? No, just nobody in my house watched sports. My brother could care less.
You'll be like, oh no, for my birthday, I want a Janet Jackson poster.
I'm sure my mom had tons of questions about the game when she found out what happened during halftime. She probably had to see if I saw
exactly.
it.
Yeah. All right, man. There's other things that happened in that game. Commercials. Did you see any commercials? I'll be honest with you. I did not pay much attention to the commercials this year, so I'm going to be lost in this. Was there any that you liked or thought
I'm
was
always
good?
like in and out of the commercials. I'm never like fully into. And at the beginning, you kind of are just to see. But I felt like it was a down year for the commercials. There were only a handful that I even really remember that were like that were decent or had like funny parts in it. So like there was one where there were polar bears drinking Pepsi. Did you see that one?
Yes.
Yeah. So they were drinking Pepsi, and then they did like the kiss cam, the Coldplay thing for the polar bears, and they like got shocked, like because they're drinking Pepsi, like they were cheating on Coke.
I didn't catch that. Yeah. Okay.
That was good.
I saw the beginning.
But the best one for me, they had a Dunkin' Donuts one that was like 90 stars. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
That one was good.
I actually got that one kept my attention. I did like everyone was weirdly quiet during that one. Maybe they were just as interested as I was in there.
All of a sudden, people you recognize. They had a D's nuts joke.
Like, yeah.
That one was good.
there was a Ben Stiller one too, where like I didn't get to hear the whole thing. It's like he did some jump and he fell. Like visuals on it were funny, but I don't. That was the only funny one that I caught. Usually, I want to catch some of the movies that were
Yeah.
in there. I thought they might do an Avengers Doomsday one. I was hoping they would do that. But one that was in there that I didn't catch while I was on, but I watched the YouTube channel because I wanted to see what movies were in the trailer was He-Man, Masters of the Universe. Now I don't know, like you definitely didn't catch the original version of that, the original cartoon, but there was other cartoons in the 90s and 2000s. So do you know what He-Man is?
I
Is that
know what He-Man is, but no, I never. That was before me. I think that was over with before the 90s, right?
Well, they had like they had a 90s and a 2000 like update, like story update or whatever. But yeah, it was definitely an 80s like thing, and it was right in my wheelhouse. I mean, my grandpa used to take me to Kmart, get one of those He-Man toys once a week. That was our trip to the store together. That eventually turned into baseball cards, but yeah, for a while it was He-Man thing. So I am interested in seeing that. There was an 80s He-Man movie, but it had Dolph Lundgren and it didn't follow the cartoon at all. It was just totally different, like all on Earth. So I am excited to see that movie. There's a Steven Spielberg movie that was in there that I haven't seen much of his stuff lately. So I think he's a good director. So I'm excited about that. It seemed like there's some horror suspense angle to it. So I'm excited about that. But yeah,
What
it was
movie
pretty
was it?
much
Do
a
you remember
down year in
anything about it?
commercials.
Like
I
the
can't.
only
It
movie
was
thing I
early
remember
on.
seeing was Minions. They had like another Minions teaser,
Yep.
Minions vs. Monsters. But it was like,
Yeah, I do
watch the
remember
trailer
that.
online. It was like a quick, like 10-second thing. Milo kept
Yeah,
pointing
because
out every time a commercial came up, Milo kept pointing out, he was like, how do you think they'll show an Olympic commercial this time too? I was like, well, the Olympics are on Peacock. So yes, they're just going to keep showing the Olympics over and over again.
exactly. Well, I mean, you think about like I think the internet has almost ruined some of these commercials because they don't want to pay so much for a long commercial. So like sometimes they'll do watch this part of the commercial and then you could watch the rest of it online if you're interested. And then people will just watch it, and then they're getting YouTube advertising money for people watching the commercial. As opposed to you know paying whatever it is millions of dollars for 30 seconds. There was a stupid crypto commercial where it's just like text on a screen. They always do that. Like last year, I think it was like a QR code or something like that. This year was just stupid text on the screen. I don't know. Seems crazy to spend millions of dollars for a text on the screen, but what do I know? All right.
Yeah.
I have a huge question
Commercials
for
just
you.
don't hold as much weight as they used to.
No, they don't. I mean, the internet's kind of killed that, and just the price has just gotten too much that these companies can't afford that. You can't get it's hard to get a return on a multi-million-dollar investment. It's just really hard. So let's steer this towards the Lions a little bit. Would the Lions have beaten the Seahawks at any point during the season or in this game itself? Do you think the Lions had a shot at all?
They have a shot, of course. I think the Seahawks team coming into the Super Bowl was just really hot. Had we played them in the regular season, maybe we catch them off guard. Their defense is just really good, though. And I mean, if they were getting pressure and our offensive line was breaking down and they take out our run game, then no, we wouldn't, we would not have been able to move the ball. It would have been too little too late. It may have looked a lot like this game did. It's hard for me to say. We absolutely could win that game. We could definitely be in there, but I don't know. With the run that the Seahawks were having and based on how the season was going for us, I'm not sure that we would have been able to. How do you feel?
Yeah, I wouldn't have trusted our defense in there. I think that we could have put some points up there. I really do think that we could have put some points up on the game. But, and I think Dave Campbell would have been a little more aggressive, and that might,
Yes.
that could be good or bad, right? I mean, you could be out of it early in the first half because Goff threw a couple picks, or he hit them and, they got Jamon Crosser and he took it to the house. I think we would have had trouble containing their rush. I think we would have had trouble running the ball with this year's offensive line. We just definitely need to fix that going forward. And I think that would have been the difference in the game. This year was so weird that it would not surprise me for any team to go in there and beat Seattle. I think any team could have went in there, but Seattle was on a heater and they played really well this whole playoffs. They deserved to win it. they were the best team for a majority of the season, at least when I saw them. Now they had some downtimes. They had games where Sam Darnold had a lot of turnovers and they looked pedestrian, but for the most part, they were the most evenly built team. But, next year I could see Sam Darnold just not having the year that he had this year, or an injury hits him at the wrong spot. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. They're in a very tough division, with the Rams in there. The 49ers are always good. Cardinals are the Cardinals, but now Seattle's gonna have the first place schedule. They're gonna have to deal with all that. I could see, where this wouldn't be a long term thing. However, Donald seems to be a good coach, but I'm not convinced it's like long term for them. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough for me to admit that the Lions wouldn't be able to beat this team, but I would say a majority of nights Seattle beats a Detroit team. But I
Right.
think we got a shot.
Yes, absolutely. It was the Rams for so long that were favored and looked at like the number one team. And then, the Rams come back down to earth when they lost to the Panthers. And, then the Seahawks were able to beat them, the couple times that they did. And obviously they earned the right to be there. But yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be very hard for the Seahawks to replicate that success next year. I saw something online that, sorry, go ahead.
Well, real quick here. WMW, thanks for joining us. You're always here. I want to give you a shout out. So hope you're enjoying it. If you got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Sorry, Jacob. Go ahead.
I forgot what I was saying. You cut me off.
Man,
No, I saw something online where it was like, Patriots. It was a Patriots page, I think. But they were like, obviously they didn't have their best night, but they still think, if they played the game 100 times, it would be 50-50. They would have beat the Seahawks. Now, do you feel that way? Because I thought the Seahawks definitely had the upper hand going into it, and I was not surprised at all about how the game went. And I would say probably 60 to 65% of the time at least, the game turns out the way that it did, and the Seahawks beat them. Now, do you think that's just the Patriots trying to cope?
Yeah, I would say if they played that game 100 times, I'd say at the minimum, Seattle wins at 60 times. That's my
Right.
minimum.
That's
I
what I
think
was
it's closer
hovering
to
around to, yeah.
75, 60 to 75. Um, you know, Obviously football, the ball could bounce right or wrong way depending on your team. Uh, you know, Calls can go whatever which way. There could be a call that swings it, but Seattle was just the more consistent throughout the season. Played better teams throughout the season, had a tougher road to the Super Bowl through the playoffs. I'm talking about the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots kind of just had like a pretty like one of the easiest paths to the Super Bowl, especially when they get to playing the number one seed and their quarterback gets hurt like the week before. If Bo Nix plays that game, I don't even think the Patriots are in the Super Bowl. Let me ask you this question.
If there's better weather, maybe.
Yeah, and it could be, and that might have been it, but it also stopped the Patriots. So I'm not really. I don't know if the weather didn't.
Everyone
The
has
weather
to
just
play in the
stopped.
weather. Here's the thing, like
Right.
everyone has to do that. It's a bad for both people. We've already talked
Yeah.
about this. I don't like it. I'd rather it be played, indoors or, I don't like weather being a factor in taking the best out of it, but
Yeah. Let me ask you this: if you had to put money for next year, who would you think get there more likely, the Patriots or Seattle?
I would still say Seattle. I mean, the Patriots, their offensive line's going to get a full year underneath their belts. I think they said they're battling some injuries and stuff like that. Maybe they get a better receiver or some different kind of weapon on there. They are a good team, but you're right. They played, I think, man, I don't remember now. It was like top 3 easiest schedule, I think. Like, based on not before the season, after the season, how the season went.
Yeah, I'll be interested. I think they had a pretty easy schedule and it hid things, but that doesn't mean that they can't get better. I mean, Vrabel, I think is one of those coaches that like maybe he doesn't have the highest ceiling, but he definitely has one of the higher floors. And that's why I knew the Patriots are going to be a little bit better this year. They're going to play consistent football, make a ton of mistakes. It just happened that they kind of fell into the schedule that they had and but they won the games, right? I'm not trying to take anything from it. They did win the games. Winning an NFL, I don't care who you're playing, unless it's the Jets. It's pretty, it's hard to win week in and week out.
There are no
All right.
style points. Doesn't matter how you get it done.
No, they're in the Super Bowl and we didn't even make the playoffs. So I'm not, I don't want to be sour grapes. Before we move on to our we're going to have a very intro to free agent talk. I do want to mention, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have, but Pride Detroit had Drew Petzing on their podcast today. So shout out to them. So happy that they, the Lions PR apparently went to POD and hooked this up. So I am so glad, I'm so proud of the PR to go to POD and put it on those guys. I knew Jeremy and Eric would ask good questions and not, just like, I don't know, just to get clickbait questions. They asked really good questions. They took questions for the viewers. I don't want to get into it too much. Go over there, listen. The podcast is up right now. You can watch it live on YouTube. I will say that I felt better about Petzing after, not that I felt bad before, but I did feel more comfortable with him in the position he's in after listening to it. So if you're like on the fence or, you don't know too much about Drew, I would listen to it. He's a very good communicator. I know, Jacob, you worked all day. You probably didn't have a chance to see it. I do recommend listening to it. I felt so much better than, listening to him than John Morton, where I think John Morton was a broken record, just saying the same things over and over. Again, Petzing was very selective about what he was saying. He didn't give away too much, but I did just like hearing his overall thoughts on offense and how he plans to utilize the Lions offensive personnel.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. So check that out. Pride of Detroit, Drew Petzing. Shout out to them. All right. Free agency. This is the very beginning of, Super Bowl just ended. Let's look at, Lions free agents, who maybe we want back, who do we not want back, positions maybe we should target in free agency. I'm not going to get into like players that we're going to target in free agency. Oh, we will get into that. I want to, kind of just see where all the coaches ended up and all that stuff. We got a little bit of time on that, but I do want to talk about our current free agents because those aren't going to change.
Real quick before you get on that, just because you just
Yeah.
reminded me, because I know we're not going to talk about specific players, but the Max Crosby thing is heating up again. I'm sure you saw that, right? He's non-committal to the Raiders, and they're got all their whole front office, the coaching staff, everything's changing. He's not sure if he wants to be a part of it. He's rehabbing. Will these rumors ever stop?
They're not going to stop until Max is retired, and then they're going to will Max come out of retirement to play, to get a ring in Detroit? Like you'll hear it. I don't know. I don't think the money works out too well for us, and the fact that we got to give up assets. Like it just depends. I cannot see the Raiders in a situation where like we just got to unload Max. Like he's not the type of guy that you're like, I need to unload. He's, it's not like a Stefan Diggs where, he's probably not the greatest locker room guy. I get the sense that Max is a good locker room guy, someone that's strong for the team on and off the field. So it's like you don't just give those guys up. And the fact, I think the way the Raiders, did their contract, I don't know if it's going to be easy to cut him. I'd have to look at the dead money on that. So I don't know if I want to give up assets as much as I want to see Max Crosby on the opposite side of Aiden Hutchinson. It's a cost benefit type thing. I just don't know if that
same as it was
out.
the last time we had this conversation.
It is, yeah. I just don't know how that's going to line up. I mean, for me, I'm not saying we draft a first round edge, but I think getting a cheaper one earlier in the draft may be more higher on my list. But we'll see. All right. So of our free agents that we have out there, Jacob, who do you think is most likely that we re-sign? Just really quickly, you got DJ Reader, Alex Anzalone, Khalif Raymond's on there, Amik Robertson, Roy Lopez is on there. You got Marcus Davenport, Avante Maddox, Al-Qadim Muhammad are the, I would say, major ones. Maybe Kyle Allen you could throw in there. Obviously, we have some others, but those are the big ones. So who do you think we are most likely to resign?
I was waiting to see if you made it that far down the list because that's actually who I picked as I think most likely to re-sign is Kyle Allen.
Okay.
He was a serviceable backup. He did decently well in the preseason. Somebody else I think you could bring in if we do end up drafting a quarterback late in the draft somewhere, then we don't have to rely on that quarterback at all. We've got our backup. We've got our guy, Kyle Allen, inexpensive. I don't think you have to pay him too much to continue to be the backup here. I think that one just makes sense. There are several other people that I would want, but as far as if I'm betting like who I think is most likely, I would say Kyle Allen right now. Who do you got?
Yeah, I would say I think that's going to happen for all the reasons that you outlined. The cost is the major thing. I don't think it's going to cost you too much. If I'm assuming that Jared Goff was comfortable with him, that could be another factor that we don't know all the answers to, right? Like we don't know how it worked out through the season because obviously they weren't going to make any of those changes during the season. But I'm going to bet that since he made it through the preseason, that he's pretty good. He looked decent enough in preseason. I mean, I'm not going to count on him if Goff gets hurt in week 3 for us to, have a long playoff run. But a couple games in the season, Goff twists his ankle or something like that. Yeah, I'm not hitting the panic button. But I think it's also the cost benefit too thing. You're not going to be paying too much. We're not going to be going out and signing Malik Willis and burning up a lot of our cap space on a backup
Yeah, right.
quarterback.
Absolutely. And a lot of people were angry, that we cut Hendon Hooker, right? Some people were mad that we cut Hendon Hooker. It's like, oh my God, just all this potential wasted for Kyle Allen. And then Hendon Hooker, obviously, he got signed with the Panthers, didn't work out with the Panthers. The Panthers cut in the middle of the year. He got signed to the Jets. He went back with AG and got signed to the Jets practice squad. That he gets another training camp probably, right? But that could be a wrap for Hendon Hooker in the league.
Yeah, 100%. Like he's going to have to show at this point he's going to have to show that he's the good watch video, provide other things other than being the quarterback on the field. You got to be a good locker room guy. You got to do all those type of things and remains to be seen if he is that guy. I think more people are upset not that I think there are people that had hopes for Hendon Hooker, but the way his preseason went, I think a lot of anybody that thought, it became fewer and fewer people that thought he's was going to do anything in the league. And then, I think more people turned to Brad Holmes and be like, see, you shouldn't have spent a 3rd-round pick on Hendon Hooker. And that's what it turned out to be. People are more mad about
Right.
that. Who do you want to resign, or who do you think that we should resign from this list?
There's people that I like. I like Khalif Raymond. I would love to have Khalif back. I would love to have Amik back. Amik, I think, is like a dollar thing. Like, does that work? Is he going to be trying to look for more money because it's maybe his last chance to get a sizable contract? And he played decently well. There may be a team willing to offer him more money. I liked Roy Lopez. Josh Pascal missed the whole year, right? That's somebody else that I liked. Somebody else we drafted that did maybe like Levi did not, because of injuries, didn't have a great showing or a great chance. Can we bring him back on a really cheap deal? I think that we should, or we can. That would be nice just to see what he's got. You also don't have to offer him any guarantees or anything like that either. That's somebody that you bring in, compete for a roster spot. I mean, those are the guys at the top of the list. When you move further down, I think Rock played well enough where he could get another contract, and I would be completely fine with that. Jake Bates, obviously. Rodrigo, we like Rodrigo. We like Rodrigo. We like Nowaski. Those are all guys that are just, the salary is not going to be very high. We have to cut dollars somewhere, and I think bringing them back on for not a very high salary is probably what's going to happen. Now, Rodriguez could say, hey, I want a chance to start, or I want more playing time. I want to go elsewhere. Maybe he just wants to make more money. He wants to go back to, man, I can't remember now, Oklahoma or Texas. There's a lot of other things, other factors for these guys that are role players on the team. But those are guys that I like that I would like to have back.
Yep. I think Amik's going to be back. I'll be honest with you. I think I mean, unless the dollars are so far apart, like compared to what another team, I think if we're anywhere in the ballpark, that he's going to take a little bit less. He really likes being here in Detroit. I don't think we should like lowball him just to take advantage of that. But I really think that Amik's probably going to be back. He didn't have like an amazing year last year that was going to set the market on fire that would price him out of Detroit's range. So I think that that's going to be back. Rock is an interesting, it's 1 year he had with us. Is that gonna be enough for another team to take a chance on him? I would like to have Rock back, um, especially with DJ Reed and TA having injuries. Ennis Rakestraw, obviously, we're not gonna be counting. I mean, I'm hoping that Ennis can play this year, but it hasn't, worked out this first couple of seasons. So, to count on that would be a fool's errand, I think. I don't think, you know, I don't think Alex is going to be back. And I think that maybe increases the chance that Amik's going to be back because maybe if Alex isn't back, we don't play, our base defense as much, which means we're going to need a nickel guy out there. And we know Amik will come in and he'll play the run, like he'll play that type of stuff. So I could see that you lose Alex, you're like, we need, someone with, that we know that can come in here and play our style of football. That was kind of the problem at one point before the injuries took place in the secondary was, yeah, I remember early in the seasons, like we got to get a Meek on the field because they were playing so much base that they couldn't get a Meek on the field a lot. So that's one way to alleviate that is if you lose a linebacker and you're not playing as much base, then you can get your best players on the field.
With that being said, for Kelvin Shepard, a former linebacker, a linebackers coach, you don't think that if he lets Anceloni walk, he's not looking for a hot linebacker to get in here?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that they're gonna wanna spend the money on that because 'cause they're gonna have to be paying Jack pretty soon, and I think Malcolm is one of those guys that, you could get for a reasonable contract. I think Malcolm's probably gonna wanna stay here, especially with Shep being defensive coordinator still. There's probably I'm assuming they have a pretty good relationship. So I would think that Malcolm could come back, especially if Alex leaves. Malcolm is not as far down on the depth chart, and he might get a better chance at snaps. Plus, Malcolm's good in special teams. I like him for keeping him for that reason too. You get him out there in the linebacker, but then he's good in special teams. Um, I don't know if we haven't talked about this, but it's out there. Like Levi Onwuzurike is back this year. I know it shows on Spot Track or whatever. It's on unrestricted free agent because of some contract quirk about him being on the physically unable to perform list the whole year and never really getting into camp. That contract just basically moved that he signed last year, just kind of moves forward. So let me ask you, is that a good thing for you, Jacob? Are you happy about that? Or is that a drawback that we're going to rely on someone that's injury prone like that? What's your thoughts?
I'm happy about that because then that's kind of a steal. I don't know exactly how that works. Does that mean he just didn't get paid last year? Like, I mean, is there some sort of injury clause? Like, there's got to be
Yeah.
something to that. But I mean, as far as like what he counts against the salary cap, we were happy that we got him on this deal last year before the injury happened. So
hmm
yeah, that's awesome.
Same thing with Josh Pascal. His contract moves forward too. So
Okay.
like he's gonna be on the team next year. So like we have Josh and Levi back both on their deals. Now Josh's is different because it was on the rookie deal. So I think they could cut him and that doesn't count. Whereas Levi's, if there was guaranteed
Fully
money, that would
guaranteed.
count towards it. So, but I'm gonna assume that if Levi's healthy, that he's gonna, have a pretty good chance of making this roster, depending on, injury status and what that's done to him. Roy Lopez is another guy that we haven't talked about, in this thing that I really would like to have back. I hope that we can get him back for a reasonable amount. He really showed flashes this year, and I'd like to see him in year two in the Lions uniform.
Do you think that DJ Reader is as good as gone?
Yes, unless he takes some sort of like crazy discounted deal. I just don't see us. I don't see us spending much money on him. I think that he's a good team guy. I think he's a great teammate. So I think there's value to him being here. He just didn't play as well last year, and that was 2 years removed from that injury. I don't see the play being elevated. So it's almost like we could get a guy like Roy Lopez that's, he's getting better as opposed to on the decline. Maybe the resources would be better there. So I would not give DJ Reader anywhere close to what he was making last year, which is like 11 million or whatever.
Right.
So I would think he's going to probably be able to get a better deal somewhere else. And I would expect his playing time to decrease with Tyleek in there too. So it's like you're not going to give him a bunch of money to not be in there. He'd be good to have in rotation, but not for probably the money that he's going to command on the open market.
Yeah, I mean, even if he took a pay cut and was willing to do like 7 or 8 million, I think that's still too much. We have other, we got to move money somewhere.
Is there a player on here that you flat out don't want back on the list?
That one was a hard one for me to say, like somebody that I flat out like just don't want back. I don't think that exists, but I do think when you talk about like dollars and everything, if we overpaid for like, DJ Reader, that's a good example, or Anzalone, really. Like, I'd say we did right by Alex and wanted to give him, more money to come back. I don't think, I mean, his play fell off a little bit last year. Who's to say if that was just being uninspired about the contract? He had the whole contract dispute and everything like that, but I don't see a pay increase for Anzalone going over very well. And I wouldn't, I'd be happy to have Anzalone back. I think it would just be a dollar issue for me. Like, I don't want to overpay anybody, and I definitely don't want that to interfere with, Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch, Laporte, like all these guys that we know that we need to re-sign, that we want to re-sign down the road. I don't want that to affect that at all. So taking Anzalone, who already, like I said, maybe took a little bit of a step back. We could draft a linebacker. We could look for other linebackers. That's where I'm at there. Is there anybody on the list, though, that you're like, man, I just really...
I'm not the biggest Davenport hater. Like, I did not, go on that list, but we've given him 2 chances. Even when he was on the field, he wasn't making a big deal last year. I just don't see it happening, you know, for us. So I just don't really want him back. I don't know. Like, we did talk about, I do want Avonte Maddox. I would give him another shot, especially with the question marks that we have in the safety room. I would like to, bring, or at least give him Avonte Maddox a shot in training camp till we see what we got with Kirby and Branch. Like, if Branch is able to do anything on there. Shane Zylstra, I think I've given him enough chances. I think that he's, I don't necessarily want him to be back. UMW says, is there a linebacker in the draft that covers like Alex? I have not gotten a draft, and I don't think you could have any rookie that's going to come in and be able to cover like Alex. I just don't think you have anything like that. But are you going to go with a nickel? Can a meet cover? That's what you're going to go with. I think Alex is one of the best cover linebackers in the NFL. So to think that we're just going to go and replace a guy like that, it's it would be very hard to find someone like that, to find like someone like Alex.
There's
But I
a
think it's a cost issue.
Right, but there's also, when you talk about the rookie linebackers, there's an adjustment period, a welcome to the NFL
Yes,
period, and especially
100%.
when you talk about in coverage. And any linebacker that we're going to be getting, especially if that's what you're looking for, is a coverage linebacker. I mean, that's not somebody that we're going to be drafting in like round 1, round 2. That's going to be probably
Right.
a little bit further down, if that's what you're looking at, is just for coverage.
Yeah, and that's why I say, like, there's going to be so many welcome to the NFL moments for a coverage linebacker. You get one of these top tight ends that you're trying to cover, they're going to do things to you that you've never seen before, and your head's going to be on a swivel.
And how many times do we see Anzalone getting just burnt by Montgomery and Gibbs in training camp,
Right.
like all the time?
Yeah.
Anzalone's one of the
Yeah.
best that does it, and he can't keep up with them. He's got to be holding and grabbing and doing everything that he can.
Yeah. So I don't think you're going to see that, but that's why you go, you switch your defense a little bit. I mean, Alex is the reason why you can play base so much. I mean, Alex is that reason. I mean, Jack's coverage has gotten better this year, but Alex, was the reason why you could play base, because no matter what personnel they put out there, you're going to trust Alex to cover a running back. But we saw him get burnt, like in that Giants game. He got burnt deep. It happens. But he just, you know, you could trust him to do that, and then you're hoping to get pressure before he's going to get burned deep, because Alex
Right.
isn't going to cover any running back real deep. You're hoping that your pressure gets there and it doesn't get to that point. I don't know if there's anybody else that I don't really want on here other than those guys. We haven't talked about Muhammad, and it's not that I don't want him back, but I have a feeling that he's priced himself out of Detroit with, going double digit sacks. Someone's going to pay him the money.
His comments too. The comments that he had made, about like being appreciated, or where you're, whatever he had said, the writings on the wall there that somebody's going to pay him and he's looking to get paid and he's looking to be utilized. Like, I think Muhammad's like 30, 31 years old. So he's never been in a position where he's going to make a sizable amount of money like that. So he's going to take that chance right now.
Yeah. 100%.
And he earned it. Honestly, he did. He put in the work. He had the results.
Well, I mean, plus you talked about being utilized too, right? Like, he could go, like, he might command the contract where he's, number 2 edge, or, number 3 in a high rotation where, you don't have not a team where, like, the Lions are weird because one of our edges plays like 85 to 90% of snaps. Most teams aren't like that. So you have a much higher rotation, so you get more snaps because of that. So Al-Qadim, even if he's edge number 3 on a team, he's gonna command more snaps. For whatever reason, the Lions didn't utilize him like he could have been edge 2. He could have had more sacks, but maybe they just, maybe they got the best out of him. I don't know. It could be one of those things that like, they try to utilize him at the right time, and maybe the Lions know something that we don't know, but I think it's just more of a scheme type thing.
Be like a Von Miller thing. Keep him fresh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say Al-Qadim Muhammad's Von Miller, but yeah, it's along those same lines.
I
where
didn't say that.
You know,
I said it was like a Von Miller thing where keep him fresh, keep him on pass rushing situations like that.
You heard it. You heard it here. AQM equals Von Miller. We had him on our team the whole time, straight from Jacob's mouth. Yep. So, I mean, we'll get into this further. I think Khalif is an interesting one. I would like to give my 2 cents on that. Like, do like Khalif. I think he's a really good punt returner. I would like if we're gonna replace him, I want to get someone that can return kicks, like kickoff returns. And I would almost prefer someone more big body, not like just a little more big body that he could take a little bit of the contact, especially like if we're going to put him in the middle of the field or whatever, and we could do that. God, would it be great if Tesla could return kicks? Like how big? I mean, he's fast. Like, I mean, I would like, is that could that be part of his game? I don't know.
Right. Why can't he?
Like get him to work on that during the year. I would like, he's huge. He's fast. Like, whether we want to give him all that contact, I don't know, but it'd be nice to be able to utilize some of that. And, the Lions like to put big guys in that can absorb contact in the kickoffs. I mean, that's why one reason they don't want Khalif back there is because he can't do it. They put Craig, they put Jacob Sailors back there because those are guys that can absorb that. Now Vaki could be an interesting option if he's healthy. I know last year he wasn't healthy, but if he's healthy, maybe he turns into that guy. But I would, if we're gonna move on from Khalif, I want to get someone that could with kick returning possibilities. I really want us to have some parts of the season where we're past midfield, like a couple kickoffs past midfield, returned by a guy other than Tom Kennedy, because he's the only one that got us any field position on kickoffs this year.
Right.
And that was because we surprised the heck out of the team. And he just picked the right hole and he was patient and he went, no one expected much from Tom. I think even the other team didn't give him the respect. And that's why he was able to get some of those runs.
Right. I was looking at the kick return stats just to see, and Jacob Sailors averaged more kick return yards than most of the people. Like as far as Kavonte Turpin averaged 26.3 yards and Jacob Sailors averaged 27.2.
Yeah. Well, I think our blocking was good up front that we could get, like, we weren't getting slammed back at the 20. I will say that for the most part, we were in between the 30 and the 35-yard line. If we didn't get to the 30, we were in the high 20s, 28, So I did like that because I've seen the Lions coverage team tackle people, in the low 20s or around the 20-yard line. So like when you take average into account, so like that's a question that I could ask you. Like, would you take in, like, we're going to start at the 20 if I average it out and I got, field position when I'm starting past the 50? Or do you prefer with our offense to just be at the 35-yard line and that's where we start? Like, what would be better for you?
Say that again. If we were to do what?
So would you rather have it like, hey, that we start out at the 35-yard line? That's just where we start out. We never get past the 35-yard line, but we consistently start there. Or would you have it where we start at the 20-yard line sometime and then start at the 50 an equal amount of time? So your average is the same, but like some of the times you start at the 20 and sometimes you start at the 50.
I would want to sometimes have a shorter field.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
and then sometimes, yeah. Well, I mean, but at the other time you're spending at the equal amount of time, you're starting your drive at the 20-yard line instead of the 35-yard line. So would you always want to start at the 35-yard and basically take it a touchback, or do you like it that you would, sometimes start at the 20 and sometimes start at the 50?
I'll take sometimes starting at the 20 if sometimes you're starting all the way up the 50. Especially
I'm with you too.
Sometimes like we've seen teams do that against us, like when it gets towards the end of the half, all of a sudden they get a big kick return, and then here we go, one play, and now they're in field goal range already, and they're sneaking some quick points off the board. we did not have very many opportunities to do that.
I agree. I feel the same way too. I like that risk of doing it. It's like the same thing of taking deep shots, right? Like they're not going to all work out, but you know, I want I want that team to be scared of our guy taking a going the distance because that's when people start making mistakes. People go, they cut the wrong hole, they cover up the wrong gap, and then you shoot past there because they feel like, oh, this guy's dangerous. I cannot let him get in the free, and then you start doing things that you normally wouldn't do. And so I like the risk of us doing that. I also think for our offense that obviously this is going to be a totally different team, but in general our offense is so good that we could take some drives starting at the 20-yard line and then still be able to take it the distance. But then if you start taking it at the 50, it's almost like we're Jake Bates, you're darn near on field goal range already, and let's just take it to the house.
True.
But
and starting at the 20, longer drive, keep your defense off the field a little bit, put together a longer drive. If you're,
yeah,
if your offense is as effective as we know that we can be, just got to make sure we got to get the offensive line right.
Yes, that's the biggest thing. So I would say in my position, the target in the free agency is offensive line. I would say that that's what I want to see shore up. I don't know, what you're going to do, center, guard, tackle. I mean, you're going to need help at all those positions, either starter or backup. Really, also, depending on what Taylor does, we might have starting tackle. I definitely want us to fix center. Graham is not it for me. I think Graham's going to pre-cut. I wouldn't mind bringing him back in a backup position because I do like the fact that if someone gets injured, he could play all three interior positions and play them at a decent level. But I just don't think he's the answer that we need at center. We need someone to move people and then get to the second level so that Jameer can do what he needs to do.
Yep, absolutely. That's number one on my list is center. Because I think, number one on my list is Frank. Get Frank back here somehow. Please come back. No, but I mean, that's just the number one thing that I'm looking at is that we just need a strong center. We need somebody with good experience. And there's centers out there. I mean, maybe not any all pro level that you're looking at right here, but serviceable centers that could at least do a better job or do a step above. And I just think that it'd be easier to get a center in free agency than it would be to try to look in the draft and bring a rookie center in like that.
Yeah.
And if we are thinking offensive line in the draft, it'd be easier, an easier adjustment period for a tackle or a guard than it is going to be for a center.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I say for center, I'd like to get that. Now, I mean, the wild card variable is, what they're going to do with Tate Ratledge. Are they going to try him at center again? Did they do that? Were they practicing with him at center? Because no one knows what they did in practice. They might have given him snaps there, and the media is not even there, so they can't even report on it. So they might have been gearing towards Tate. They might have told him this whole offseason, you need to watch all the tape on all these centers because this is what we're doing next year. So we don't know that answer to that. So that's a wild card there. But I want center. I know everyone wants the guy from the Ravens. I don't think the Ravens are going to let that guy out of the building.
That's going to be a lot of money.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of money too. The Bills are about to lose their starting center.
Yep.
They're not in a very good cap space. So they're going to, they could resign him, but I think, that's where we're going to look at is the name's escaping me, but
Connor McGovern.
And I'm sure there's more. I'm sorry.
Connor McGovern. He was from the Cowboys and he signed with the Bills.
Yep. That's right. So, that's an option that's out there. So yes, to me, free agency, I think even, one guy that we didn't mention, Jamarco Jones, he's one of our free agents. He was going to be he was our tackle 3 before he got injured and upgraded early in the draft because we could draft a starting left tackle. Taylor Decker was drafted at 16. We have pick 17. So, it's not out of the realm possibility that you draft your starting left tackle in the middle of the first round. And, if he ends up being like Taylor Decker, I'll be okay with that. That'd be pretty amazing. You got Panay on the other side now. You could also move Panay over, but ideally, if we can get someone that plays left tackle, I'd rather just leave Panay right where he's at. But yes, center I think is going to be good. I would not be surprised if we get people from all 3 positions. The Lions are not dumb. They know what happened this year, and they're gonna fix their engine. Their engine's sputtering at some point. They're not going to let it collapse because then the car doesn't run, the offense doesn't run. So they are going to make sure that that's fixed. The rest of the offense outside of Khalif, obviously got the David Montgomery thing, but the rest of the offense, we maybe have a question at tight end, but wide receiver room, very happy with that room. Think we're going to be good there. We got the Khalif question, but to me, that's a minor question that'll be fixed. So, yeah. I don't know about defense. The safety is a question mark just because of the injuries there. We have our own free agents, so if we take care of our own guys, Amik and Rock, might be bringing back a lot of the same guys, which I'm okay with. I think the draft is where they're going to go with it. That's where I think you can get an effective young edge, and so maybe that's where they go.
You hope, but you also have to hope with our draft position, everything that the right guy falls in your lap.
Yep, you do. Whether the trades happen, I mean, we're not going to be drafting a wide receiver early in that run. There's a lot of first round wide receivers. So if a run goes early, maybe you're hoping that a guy falls back to you. Or if a couple guys fall back to you, you trade back, pick up an extra third round pick because we don't have one this year. I'm okay with that too. So it just depends on, what's available. But we got tons of draft time. Eric Schlitt's going to be on this year again. So that we will get a lot of information there, and we're hoping to get some other, up our draft coverage this year. So I want to learn a lot, and the best thing to do is get good guests on here that can teach us. So hopefully we have that. But first, the combine's here in a couple weeks, so we'll get a lot more information then, and then and we'll also hear from Campbell, Brad Holmes. Petzing's going to be down there, so we'll probably hear from him again. So that's coming up quick. We'll get get to talk to these guys pretty soon.
Absolutely.
All right, Jacob. Anything else before we take off?
I'm good, man.
All right. I'm Jason. He's Jacob. The offseason has officially begun, and I'm all for it. There's going to be tons of good storylines throughout this year. Hopefully, we have some good guests, and yeah, talking Lions all offseason. At least once a week, maybe twice. Just depends on how the storylines fall. And, we get a bunch of free agents. We'll be a bunch of times talking about it. So, all right. One last thing to say, right? Go Lions. Boom.